So, let's say that you're a classical guitar player in the late beginner to early intermediate stages, and you're trying to find pieces that not only sound nice, but sound impressive and are not that hard to play. And hey, even if you're a more advanced player, but you want to just find something that you know your friends and family will like, then stay tuned because this video is for you. The pieces mentioned in the beginning of the video are of course going to be easier than the ones more towards the end, but none of them are going to be all that hard. And to prove it, I'm going to learn and perform all of them for you in the filming of this video. So, let's get started. The first piece on this list is going to be the Giuliani A minor Allegro. Now, this piece is one that if you have basic arpeggio technique and you can do some chord shapes in the left hand, it's really going to be pretty easy. So if you're somebody who has a background in other styles of guitar playing, it's not going to be that bad because a lot of these chord shapes are going to be pretty familiar or are going to be variations on chord shapes you already know. The right hand, even though it's doing an arpeggio, it's the same pattern more or less over and over, with the thumb taking lead occasionally to bring out the bass line as the melody. Let's check it out and take a close look at the left hand chord shapes as well as the right hand arpeggio pattern. This next one is one that, in my opinion, is around a similar difficulty to the Giuliani Allegro. This one, the left hand uses more slurs and hammer-on techniques, so if you're familiar with those, it's not going to be all that tough. I would recommend to work on the slurs separately and make sure that you have very good, clean, and clear pull-offs. Because of the slur techniques, that makes it much easier to get this one sounding fast very, very early on. And as many people know, when things are fast, people think it's hard. So that's why this one is on this list. Let's check it out, and as a guitarist, hopefully you realize that it's not all that hard. Coming up next is a piece that is a little bit harder than the previous ones. This one would be Mauro Louisa by the Argentinian guitar player Julio Sagreras. Now, Sagreras is known for writing tons and tons of pieces for various levels, and this is by far not one of his hardest, but it is certainly one of his most famous. This piece, you can get by with knowing some chord shapes. You do have to be able to read in some of the upper positions on the neck, but they are very, very, what we could think of, idiomatic for the guitar. They make shapes that you can just expect a guitar to make, and even on the upper position chords, you can probably figure them out and associate them with chords that you've probably played down the neck before. We do have to have a mix of right hand arpeggio techniques, as well as playing block chords with the right hand, but if you have those things down and under your fingers, this piece is not all that bad, especially because it repeats. This one sounds nice and impressive, so let's check it out. Okay, this next one is one that I'm sure you guys expected, and honestly, no classical guitar list would be complete without this one. And that, of course, would be Romance by Annonymous. This one is one that there is tons of mystery around. We still don't know who wrote it, even though there is speculation. We don't really know what it was based off, but of course, we have our ideas. Either way, this is one that is not that hard to play when you really put it all together. You have a basic right-hand arpeggio happening with the thumb and ring finger being played at the same time occasionally, and other than that, it's just a basic AMI, or ring middle index arpeggio. The left hand doesn't do that difficult stuff early on in the piece, but it does do some more complicated chord shapes later on, playing in the upper positions of the neck. If you're an intermediate player who doesn't have much experience reading these higher chord shapes, it might take you a little bit of time to get it, but once you get them down and you know how to find them, this piece is going to be a breeze to play, and because it is Romanza after all, you know that it's going to impress pretty much everybody. Finally, the last piece on this list is going to be one of my personal favorites and probably your friends and family's favorites too. I almost didn't want to include it because many of you guys probably already know it. Even people who don't play guitar seem to know it, but this one, of course, is Lagrima by Fransisco Tárrega. Now, Lagrima is one that is not that hard to play. Just like Romanza, it starts off pretty easy. It does sound nice, and it does sound kind of sort of like Blackbird by the Beatles, but as you move up to the higher notes, it does become a bit more difficult to play, with some more, we could say, unique chord shapes happening up there. Not ones that are necessarily hard to play, but ones that even if you have a pretty strong background in other styles of guitar, you probably haven't done these chord shapes in this way. Just like a lot of the slower and more delicate pieces, this is one that might not be so hard to play technically, but might be pretty challenging to play musically and have it sound really nice and not let the notes get too choppy or have the sound get lost when you play up in the higher notes. But either way, I think that it's one that if you're at this level of Romanza and some of the pieces around that list, you're going to have no problem playing this one. Let's give it a listen. Alright, that was my list of pieces that I think sound impressive even if they're not that hard to play. Yes, they're going to be maybe a little steep for a total beginner or even a early intermediate beginner, but once you get to the full-on intermediate stage, they're not going to be that bad. Anyway, let me know what you guys thought, and let me know what pieces you guys would add to this list if you wanted to make one. Until then, I'll see you guys in the next video. Subscribe if you're new here, and thanks for watching.